Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this in-depth ag forecast for Farm Credit Illinois. All right, here's what we've got in this forecast video. I got to tell you where we are now, what's changed since we all met together back in January. We're going to then walk through, I think, both the sub-seasonal and seasonal forecasts and understand how I think it's all going to play out for spring. So let's get into this first map you've been looking at. Now, this is something new, right? Most of January, we saw just a tremendous amount of Arctic air that made it all the way down to the Gulf Coast. We had the big snowstorms down there. We watched the horrific wildfires in the Southwest. But things have started to shift now that we're in this month of February. Much more mild air has built in here, while still there is just a tremendous amount of cold air that is locked up into the Canadian Prairie Northern Plains. What's critical about that is we need this new pattern to undo the way that we've started off this new month dry. I mean, there's a big section here of the central United States that's been dry while better flows come into the northwest and at times across the northern tier of the U.S. and into the northeast. But we still need to see a major uptick in moisture right here in parts of the Midwest, because you add up all of the issues we've been seeing, and just take a look at this. We've got a big stripe right across Illinois coming out of Missouri and into Indiana that's been very, very dry. And even this little bit that you see right in through here, the longer term statistics in that area is still quite dry. So since the start of this new year, just take a look at this map. We have got, near record dryness since the start of the new year in parts of Iowa, very close to our Illinois border. Same thing for Wisconsin. Some climate reporting districts right here that just need to see a break in this pattern, because it's not just in the precip that's fallen from the sky, it's in the water that is beneath the surface as well. And this is one of my major concerning points going into the spring. It's our 100 centimeter or 1 meter or 3 foot 3 foot moisture profile, all right? We still see significant portions of Illinois in that bottom 2 percentile. So over 50 years of data, that's where we currently sit. All right, that's all the setup. You know that there's risk because of fall's drought, and because honestly this has not been that snowy of a winter across the northern half of the state. Now the southern half, we got a couple of big systems, but I want you to see that it's not just here that matters. It's this whole region that has got deficit in snowfall, because this is all going to feed into the Mississippi and the Missouri, and it's going to be critical to the overall, success of the growing season in Illinois. So we're watching all these things, and while I get to say all of that in one, same breath, I get to show you this. We've got a potent setup in the atmosphere coming. We've got one winter storm coming through here, one that's already left and made its way over toward the mid-Atlantic. But I've got more cold air that's coming in, and I think a pattern that's going to help in the near term revive some of these moisture issues that we've been talking about. Because over the next 10 days, some of our best and most sophisticated models have painted the whole state with at least an inch of liquid. I mean, take a look at this, an inch. Some of it's going to be snow, some of it will be rain, some of it will be freezing rain. I'll show you that in a few moments. But we've got quite a bit of moisture coming into the Midwest here. Now, to our south, very wet conditions over parts of the Mid-South, Tennessee, Kentucky, northern parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. But what's nice about this is the moisture is returning. Notice where it is not. We have to continue to keep a close eye on that. And if this is just the total liquid that's in this next few systems, this is what we're looking at in terms of snow. We've got a pretty darn good chance. In fact, let's just zoom in here. That you've seen the whole country. Let's just zoom in on the north central region. That's what I've got pinned down for a total amount of snow just coming in the next 10 days. There's a pretty good chance that a pretty broad swath of us get a good look at some snow. Now, the event that you see here is coming late. And there could be at this next system I'm about to share with you a pretty harsh cutoff right there. If you're to the north of it, you're going to get snow. If you're to the south of it, you're going to get some freezing rain and then rain. But overall, the pattern has returned itself to a really good setup to deliver systems. And this is the why. It's right here. We've seen warm air build to the south, cold air to the north, and the flow goes right in between the two. So I've got 5 systems lined up in the next 10 days to hopefully deliver some really good moisture back to the state, and we need it. Now, the issue is if we get into too much cold air and we do have snow on the ground, that's not going to revive these soil moisture deficits I showed you a moment ago. But it is at least a push toward getting that topsoil with something sitting on it that we can be taking advantage of. So I mentioned ice. Let me show you this. I'll give you the timing here. Let me take you back because I was watching this earlier before I logged on here. All right, this is Tuesday into Wednesday. Now watch, Thursday, right there. Wednesday night into Thursday. There's the risk that's going to go right across Farm Credit's territory of possibly picking up some significant ice. Now, to the south of it, rain, to the north of it, snow, but I want you to be aware of that ice risk that's going to stretch really from St. Louis all the way up to Champaign, over here toward Danville and then into Indiana. So I wanted to make you aware of that coming up. But I want you to see it. So here it is. 10 days. Ready for this? Here they go. System number 1 off the East Coast. A little bit of snow possibly spreading in through this area. Keep an eye out on that. Here comes system number 2. That's the big one, middle of this week on Wednesday, right? So that one sneaks through. There's that ice threat you just saw me forecast a moment ago. That's just this Wednesday. That one's out Thursday. Cold air comes in. Here's system number 3. Notice where the rain snow line is going to be for that one. It could be much farther to the north, most of Farm Credit's territory looking at a pretty cold rain out of this. We then go on. Here comes system number 4 right there. And there's another system number 5 waiting in the wings. Each one realizing a different temperature gradient, pushing the rain snow line all over the place. So this is going to be challenging, but what I want you to see is that there's moisture in this. So let's talk about the chances of snow. Over the next 10 days, what is the probability of getting at least 3 inches? Take note of this little area right in through here versus north and south of it. You want to look for the really heavy snows? This is the chances of getting at least 6 inches. So most of that's in the northern part of the state. But in terms of total liquid out of this, I need you to see this carefully. This is the probability of getting at least an inch of liquid. So as I showed you earlier, there's at least a 50% chance that the whole state grabs an inch over the next 10 days of liquid equivalent. So that would be if you melted down the snow. But the really heaviest rains are going to be to our south. This is the probability of 2 inches, and boy, go up to 4 inches, you got a pretty strong stripe in through there across the mid-south and the southeast. So I have to show you this side of it. This is who's going to be dry. This is who doesn't get anything. This is showing you the chance of staying under 1/10 of an inch over the next 10 days. And what's important about this area is this is where the Missouri and Mississippi River feed. So this is an important part of the water health of our state, knowing that the headwaters continue to miss out. All right, from there, I want to show you that by the time we get out there into week 2, about the 23rd of the month, you see the flow coming around and then this ridge in the west. We get flow that comes out of the north and west. Now listen carefully. If it was June, July, August, this particular setup where the jet stream comes out of the northwest produces huge storms. For the rest of the year, it's a drier look. So why I'm so excited about the near-term moisture coming back to the state is because as we get out there toward the middle and end of February, we go back over to this drier setup in the Midwest. And I'm just curious if that's going to go on repeat going forward. And I'm going to get to these other slides here in just a few moments to make sense of it. First, I do want to talk temperatures. This is what the next 5 days are going to do. We are going to have brutally cold air just sitting on our doorstep coming out of the northern plains. Over the next 5 days through February 15th, this whole region is expected to keep temperatures 20 degrees below average. You get out there day 5 through 10, now it's over Illinois. And it's the movement of that across the state that's going to be determining where that rain snow line is going to be. Okay, so keep close attention to that. By day 10 through 15, in other words, the 20th to the 25th, we're locked into a pretty chilly pattern. So if you thought winter was done with all that warmth we saw at the end of January, beginning of February, it is back, and we're going to see it through much of February, kind of locking things in. Okay, that's just in the near term. Now let's get into this longer term. I like what the Climate Prediction Center came up for the last week of February, first week of March. I see the orientation of the temperature gradient being colder in the upper Midwest and hotter down south. We've been talking, if you were at my meetings with Farm Credit this January, this was a concern, right? That drought that's still established in the southwestern United States because in the forecast seems to be continuing. What I'm concerned about is you should probably extend this a little bit farther into the Central Plains and maybe into the Midwest going forward. I can back that up with some evidence from our newest update from the European model. This goes out all the way to Friday, this goes out to Friday, March 21st. That is the equinox. And you just see that river seems to be a dividing line on who's got the drier risks to the south and west and the wetter to the east. There is a lot of indications that we're going to see across Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, probably some tighter windows in spring with a lot of moisture, but drought will be lingering to our south and west in the Sun Belt, into Texas, which is part of the Cotton Belt, and down here where I put that last D into Mexico. Don't forget that that's still sitting here waiting for us on the backside of this. Now, what are some of the big drivers? Well, I'm going to show you two maps. One over here is the current ocean temperature pattern. Over here is the change. And I'm going to show you the current ocean temperature pattern just to make a story here. This La Nina, it's been going. It is at its peak. We expected it to maintain that peak all of January. It's now lasting a little into February, but we're starting to see it weaken. Now, listen to me carefully. Your spot to watch is right here. Now, here it is in a nutshell. If this goes over cold, if that goes over cold by June, we should expect to see quite a bit of heat and the risk of drought in the Midwest. If this doesn't, and instead it goes over warm, kill that. That's all that heat and drought is going to go to our western side. This is the most critical spot to watch going forward. Now, what are some of the models suggesting? Well, I hate to tell you this, but they're terrible at forecasting it. April into May and June. Notice how warm they're trying to bring things in here. See that? So that would be an indicator that if there's drought, it's going to be to our west, not over us. But I'll tell you something, these models are notorious for missing the Gulf of Alaska. But even with the information I just told you, I'm going to show you what the raw model output looks like. Here's the European model predicting precipitation patterns seasonally. Let's go back here. So this is February, March, and April. Notice the Ohio Valley looking wet, but see where this dryness lingers to our west. This is now March, April, and May. See that dividing line? It seems to be right there along the Mississippi with bigger risk of drier to our west, wetter over us and to the east. That's that tight planting window that I think we're going to be dealing with this spring. April, May, June, still stormy, but that includes the tight windows, April and May in through here. But look at how this is expanding. May, June, July. That's what's concerning us. See how this is starting to just encroach on the western side of the Corn Belt? That's what we need to watch. Do we stay clear of this, having enough moisture in Illinois going forward while drought is knocking on the doorstep of the western Corn Belt? That is certainly a narrative right now. And what I want to do is show you some other models to back this up. So this is brand new, just released. This is the newest national multi-model ensemble forecast for March, April, May. Again, you see the tighter, wetter window here. Now, I can't pinpoint for you the temperatures just yet. We're going to have to talk about that closer to these dates, but we're looking at moisture purely today. But see where it's drier? Let's now flip over. April, May, June. Still seeing wetter here. Dryness on our doorstep. This would be May, June, July. You can start to see we're looking near normal, but look at where these drier conditions have moved into the central plains. What about June, July, August? I mean, look at that. That river is really setting up to possibly be a dividing line on this. And then finally, July, August, September. Some of the forecast models are trying to plant a mid to late summer ridge right in this area. And the closer Illinois is to it, the greater the risk of going hotter, drier. And I want you to know that risk is still on the table as we go forward in this forecast. One more suite of them, then I'll give you a bit on South America and wrap this up. This is what our National Weather Service has been predicting. March, April, May, they continue to see wetter here. There's the dryness. But they let this dryness migrate throughout the Great Basin and the Rocky Mountains, while through April, May, June, we continue to see a stormier pattern. This is now May, June, July. Notice how far away they're keeping the risk of dryness. This would be June, July, August. Not much there to talk about. And then this would be July, August, September. So notice that the least aggressive is NOAA on the prediction of the size and extent of the drought risk. I think the epicenter of which could be somewhere in this vicinity going forward. But we just know the risk factors. I'm going to tell you this again. This is the most important part of this. What we have to do, if I can bring it back up here we go, is watch these ocean temperatures. The correlation coefficient between that and heat and drought in the Midwest is 0.6, and that is high enough to use as a predictor. So let's keep an eye on it. Right now, though, there is no story coming out of South America that will bolster our markets going forward. They've been a bit behind on the harvesting of soybeans. They're certainly behind last year by, this year it's 28.5%, last year at 51%. And the planting of the safrinha crop is off of where it was, but it's because it was quite wet across parts of Mato Grosso and they delayed in planting. This is the newest 10-day forecast. In fact, this is the newest 10-day forecast. There it is. Going out there. Actually, let's go out 14 days. There you go. And what you notice here is drier in Brazil. But this is not a bad signal. They need this dryness to finish harvest to get the second crop planted. Where there's been drought in Argentina, they're projecting wetter conditions, also hitting parts of Uruguay and Rio Grande do Sul. So overall, you'd look at this map, and if you didn't know what time of year it was, you'd be like, oh man, there's going to be problems in Brazil. Nope. They need a drier stretch to get one crop out and another one in. If this continues, then there's going to be something on safrinha corn that's worth talking about in terms of some drier risks. But at this particular stage, getting us through the end of February, this is not a bad signal. So folks, we've got a lot to be monitoring here as we go forward into this late winter and early spring time period, starting with some winter storms now, and then the risk of a wet spring with possibly dry air encroaching on us as we get into summer. So that was a longer video, but man, I have a lot I want to tell you about, and I look forward to talking to you all again very, very soon. So take care. Thanks.